Hello my friends, I am back. I'm doing a video today, a bit more of a philosophy video. We're talking about 3 awkward truths about this whole knife gear hobby that I think once you look at in the face and make peace with, you'll be on your way to being a much more zen, adjusted, well-balanced knife and gear bro, or female equivalent of bro, which I'm sure exists. Now, the first one here is going to be something that is very close to my heart. I'm starting off at the jugular because this is a huge part of how I enjoy the knife hobby. But I think when I say this first statement, it rouses awkward feelings in me that probably mean it's true. And that is that the steel in your knife probably doesn't matter as much as you think it does.
I have a question for God. Why?
Yeah, I was talking to Kevin Cleary, I think, and he had this question posed to him, or he posed the question to me, or to... I can't remember how it happened, but if someone took all of your knives, your pocket knife collection, you know, all of your different blades, changed nothing else about them, left them in situ, so you would not know this had happened, and changed all the steels to 8CR13 MOV, how long would it be until you noticed? Now that's a deeper cut to probably a lot of bros who have knives in safes that they never use. And I mean, could that blade not have just been 420 HC? You know, so that's probably a deeper part of it, and probably a part that you might go, oh, but even for me as a knife user / reviewer, we have, a little bit of cold comfort in my work that I've done, I guess, has been to enjoy the steels, but in my day-to-day use, I don't know, my first thought went to my Spyderco Police, and I thought, well, I carry this knife a lot, and yeah, it's got a great edge, so I probably don't have to sharpen it that much, but then I thought, you know what, I'm sharpening this all the time. You know why? Because I use it for some dumb shit that just rolls the edge, and no matter how good your steel is, if I accidentally, cut through something and collide with the metal surface below it, you're going to have a roll there, friend. And so, sure enough, these 17-degree amazing edges, they're never reaching their end stages of slight dullness to increasing dullness organically. They're always just getting doofed into something and then needing a resharpen. So, even that, I was thinking, I think the one reason I would notice it is that this knife would perhaps stop looking like it had leprosy. As quickly. Because, damn, these tool steels, they age on you, boy. But that is something that I came to terms with it over a few hours of thought. That, yeah, probably even me, if I stopped doing all my rope testing, it'd be a minute. And yeah, it's one of those things you kind of got to turn your head towards acknowledging and being a bit like, maybe I should be buying maybe I should be buying great blades in good steels. And what I mean by that is, maybe if someone took all of your knives and rather than changing the steel, added an extra 0.5 millimeter of thickness behind the edge, that's this part of the blade right down here, I would dare say you would notice. Probably the first time you went to cut anything new, you'd be a bit like, oh, that doesn't feel as nice anymore. So maybe that's where I need to shop, or maybe that's how I'm already sort of starting to shop, or, I mean, I'm not really shopping at all at the moment. It's something I'll get onto in point 2. But, interesting food for thought, and a key knife truth, I think, is going to only help me in moving forward in this hobby. Part 2. Every knife you have after your first everyday carry knife is a luxury item. So, we have this really bad habit in this knife game of getting like a really tenuous practical validation for all of our knives. This is my tree climbing knife. And I'm so guilty of this as well, I wanted a gentleman's knife in my collection, and you know what? If I was going to actually carry this on gentlemanly occasions only, then maybe that would be something. But how many gentlemanly occasions do I have in my year? Maybe 2. So it's not a real reason to buy a knife. I bought the knife because I liked the knife. And we in this hobby do this probably more than most. You feel like you need to put like a real term use on it because we're all practical, manly men. We're all, we get down to business and we don't fluff around with, I don't need a whole bunch of knives. I just got my one good knife. That's all. You could set your watch to, just segueing through accents. But I'm just saying that we kind of like to think of ourselves as resourceful and, I'm not needlessly spending money on stuff. Everything has a purpose in my collection. A lot of us anyway. And I think that's just something we need to move past. This is all for fun. And once you acknowledge it's all for fun, it takes the sting out of a lot of the other things that start to occur to you. So an interesting thing happened just as all this weird stuff started happening in the world. I was like, I've always seen these knives as like, oh, you know what, I can always cash out. People will always buy these, I bought this for $200. Even if I sell it for $180, I'll cash out. The minute a bit of adversity's happened, everyone's like, no, I'm not buying a fancy knife. Like, I'm not buying a $200, sort of semi-fancy user EDC knife. Let's see what happened down these parts. People were out of work for a bit or whatever's happened. I had knives on eBay and they were selling. And then there was a literal day that the worm turned with all this. It was when our PM started to have daily coronavirus briefings. It was in the middle of these auctions I was doing, a Spyderco and a Benchmade, and that just stopped. Everyone was just like, nope. Checking out. And it just really drove home to me that these are all just optional fun things. And starting to see the hobby as optional fun stuff really does help your worldview and just help take it a little bit less seriously, maybe. Because I think that's what we suffer from a lot in this game. Because we do overlap a lot with the prepper circles and the firearm circles, and they're groups that are probably a lot more intense in terms of feeling perhaps, preppers are preparing for disaster, and firearms owners are sort of perpetually, have their hackles up about, the perception and the laws changing and that sort of stuff. So because we sort of hitch our wagon to these two posts as well, we can be somewhat miserable folks as well. But all I'm saying is this is all for fun, and you should treat it as such. This even extends to your fixed blades and I've got this here, right? This is a Cold Steel Viking hand axe. Cold Steel are a great demonstration of this. Lynn Thompson, to demonstrate his products and to, he makes these grand, new swords and axes and everything like that. He basically makes them to run through blade sports-esque courses with them and film videos with his friends. This is the reality that we all would be best accepting. Lynn just gets a sword, and you know that when he's swinging it around, he is pretending that he is Geralt of Rivia in his head, and bless him for that.
Winds howling.
It's one person who is not really pretending that it's for anything else. And yeah, that's for more fantasy-based, tools of days gone by. But that same really can extend to, I've got this knife here. This is a beautiful fixed blade fighting knife. This is like a K-bar on steroids kind of, army knife. You could do some solid snake CQC with this, You could, take it to war, and I don't know. This is the thing. I'm struggling for actual justifications to have this apart from because it's really nice and it's super fun and I enjoy having it. I'm sure as a combat knife, you could do some combat with it, but it's just for fun. I'm keeping it because it gives me joy when I pick it up and when I carry it around. And I guess I could put it in my car and I might use it once or twice in earnest. But it's really just a luxury object that makes me happy to have it. And yeah, turning this corner is something that I think that just puts you at ease with the world of knives a little bit more. And part 3. Involvement in the knife community. It's optional. I go through these stages sometimes. I do this thing where I'll read something about someone being skeezy or some company being shit or just something bad, right? and I'll go on like a deep dive into like, oh, read all the forum posts about, whoever was supposed to be in the army that wasn't, or whoever's making the knives in China but saying they're made in America, and all that stuff. And it's like tantalizing. It's the same way that like, when you watch like people fighting on Facebook out the front of pubs, and like you watch it and there's all the screaming and stuff, and you can't look away, and there's a couple of little funny things that'll happen in it, but afterwards you're just fucking drained. It's a bit like that, and I do that from time to time, and it's like I've caught myself, and I need to be like, why am I doing this? Like, this is all... I'm very much a proponent of, like, the use of human energy it's a commodity. It's like what you choose to put your energy into is, there's an economy in it. And I think to myself, why am I doing this? It doesn't matter if I know this. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to be able to do anything about it because it's probably happened 10 years ago. But it's just one of those things. And that extends even more to, just the general to's and fro's of being, talking to a huge amount of people about stuff. I am quite, by design, difficult to get a hold of on a personal level. And that's because I have a finite amount of energy to put into this. I've got a family, I've got a job, I've got knives to review and buy and play with as well. And it's just it's a sweet spot that I think that it took me a long, long time to get to. It's, it's not, you feel, it feels bad being like, just, don't talk to everyone because, everyone wants to talk, and it's, the discussion of a pursuit with, like-minded people obviously has its benefits, but it just gets to a point where it is so much. Like, I firmly believe that most human brains have maybe like a village or a town's worth of scope to like remembering people's names and just dealing with people's bullshit. And I think when you're getting on the internet and you're dealing with the entire world, and I know the knife world isn't as big as like a lot of other pursuits, but when you're dealing with the whole world, you can't overstate how much that is probably not really in line with how your brain was supposed to work. So I've sort of stopped... Well, I've stopped and started doing this a few times. I've sort of picked it up and put it down. I've done months. I'm quite, for lack of a better word, I'm quite bipolar with my content creation and my knife involvement. And I'm not ashamed of that anymore. I do it when I want to, and when I don't, I don't. Because when you start to feel like you've got an obligation to this thing, then it's probably no longer a hobby, and it's becoming like a spouse, or like it's an obligation. It's a... and that's not how your thing should be. To put it into perspective, and it has helped lately, because I can't do this as much, because my schedules have changed a bit, my work hours have changed. Often there'll be neighbours mowing lawns and stuff when I'm trying to shoot videos and that. So I've been playing a few video games. I've just gone with it. I've like, oh, this is fun. I used to play heaps of games. I've been playing a couple recently. So I'm playing with, playing Metal Gear Solid Snake, running around dinging guys in the head with magazines and stuff. And just doing all the cool shit you can do in that game. It's just me in the game. I haven't waded into the Metal Gear Solid fandom or the video game fandom. The video game community is insanely broad and has incredibly toxic elements in it, and it's, from what I know about it when I was into that stuff 15 years ago it was, and I'm sure it's the same even still. I'm not wading into that stuff because I'm just trying to keep it between me and the game. Keep it a bit more chill. And that's the same. You can do the same with knives. There are knife guys who you never hear from them. And they're probably bigger fans of knives than me, than you, than anyone. They probably buy like Michael Walker custom knives, and they sit in their house and they take them out every now and then, and they have a glass of scotch and they play some classical music and they open up their, beautiful, $30,000 knives and think, you know what, this is nice. It's just me and the knife. It doesn't... Excessive community involvement, you don't get any points. You don't really get anywhere from it unless you get sheer enjoyment from excessive community involvement. That's all I'm saying. So I had to have a think about how much I want to engage with people. And my batteries get drained engaging with a lot of people at once. They really do. I read all my comments, but I don't respond to all my comments because I just don't have that much to say. Like, once I've made the video, you've got everything I've got to say in this video, really, unless it's something really juicy or something that goes, oh yeah, I didn't think of that. yeah, I read, I often hit the heart button, all that good stuff. But yeah, it's just, I guess, just acknowledge where your batteries start to drain and stop a bit before that even, because then you just have nothing but more fun doing your knife hobby. Or maybe it'll open up space and time, a freeness of energy for you to even put into a different hobby or even a different facet of this hobby. So there you go. Just my third, a bit more broad advice, just something I've sort of rounded a corner towards over the last 7 years. All right. Thank you all for watching. Quick thanks to all my Patreons. This month I've got myself some proper sound recording stuff. So some microphones, some lapel mics. Hopefully my sound gets better. I know sometimes in the knife lab it doesn't seem like the most sophisticated operation. So hopefully my video quality will continue to increase when I do make these videos. And again, all the patrons, I know I say this often, but if you're under the pump a bit, please don't feel stressed to become a patron or to continue being a patron. It's totally fine. I don't glower over the list of people that leave. It's all good. Like, do not stress. So, just a little footnote at the end there. Thanks everyone. See you all in the next video. Bye-bye.
A river in a dry lake.